This is going to sound kind of simplistic and maybe a little bit unbelievable, but I think there's one very obvious thing that people who are doing engineering projects of any kind of know that they have to do and never do, and it manifests itself in various ways. The reason they have to do it has to do with our own failings as human beings to sufficiently explain what we're doing when we're doing something extremely complex, and to organize that explanation in a way that is comprehensible as opposed to a way that only we can comprehend, or maybe only we and our closest colleagues can understand. In order to build something, let's say a software application, that is comprehensible, it kind of can't be done in code. It can't be done with frameworks. It can't be done with libraries. It needs to be done in something close to a human-oriented description of the essence of the thing you're making. That is, there needs to be a central description which you work very hard to make accurate, comprehensible, good. And that thing has to drive the generation, operation, maintenance, and every other role that a central piece of information that defines the essence of the application needs to do. It's your reference, it's your way to explain the application and the differences between that application and other applications. It's a organizational scheme. It's a working scheme. It's something that allows you to continue to improve something. It's essential description. And we do them all over the place in engineering. And we don't tend to actually force ourselves to do them in environments in which they're not straightforward. So the question is, for example, if I'm making a web application, why is it that I have to immediately start thinking in terms of the routing table and the collections of data and all this other sort of stuff, and I don't actually put in writing what it is the thing does, and then have layers and layers of, from the most important way of describing that activity to the most minor and least important ways of describing that activity. Why don't we have that kind of a centralized, layered description of the thing we're making? Because we do start that way. So we don't always start that way, but very often if you're making a product with a group of people, you basically make a product description of some sort. And that description, importantly, has to kind of get better and better. And then we go into this phase where we make the product, and maybe the product description gets referred to and improved and whatnot, but they've separated. It's sort of like one has nothing directly to do with each other anymore. And yet the product description could act as the driver, the generator, the central description of the actual product. And I do know that this has been tried before in various other kinds of ways, and we'll go to the history of this a little bit in a moment, but it's still a rather important idea, and it's been lost in this sort of world of focus on different ways of actually instructing the computer to do something. Whether it's functional programming or object-oriented programming or your favorite language, your favorite back-end, front-end languages, the various kinds of notations that are used, and the models that they represent in the world of agreements and standards that we run our applications in. So those things have become the focus, and the idea of like having a single comprehensive and comprehensible description of our applications, the essence of our applications, literally, kind of like a classical, what defines the application versus what defines some other application. That is the thing that not only defines it descriptively, but that description is used to actually make the application. And so the stuff that description is wrapped in, the environment that it's in, provides a kind of a substance for the essence of this application. That is the thing that eventually you describe to people, you teach people about your application, you present to people about your application. And that thing needs to really be in the center of your engineering. And in a way, the most clear example, this has been done, by the way, for probably ever since humans started building complicated things. I mean, long before any kind of recorded record of this sort of thing. You basically do your best to make a simple, straightforward description of the thing you need to do. And if you think about it, this was what a stored program computer was. It was convenient to not have to wire the computer, but I mean, even those things could move around. I mean, they were flexible. A stored program computer, the notion still, whether it was in text or whether it was a series of mutable circuits of some sort, was still the idea of having a central description of a thing. Obviously, it was very low-level description as we would think about it, but certainly on paper, people would do higher-level descriptions first before getting involved in manipulating the circuitry or writing the machine code. That's what we did. You'd write your programs literally, until it was good, and then you'd start in on the machine, because it was a lot of work to actually make to make a program work. First, you had to make sure that you're doing the thing that you want to do. You have a description, then you have a transduction of that description, and then you go ahead and you test it and run it and see and fix it until it actually does that transduction of that original description. But that description is extremely important, and we have the opportunity to put that in the heart of a program, and we tend not to. Again, under certain circumstances, we do. But the idea of a program itself, a stored program with a computer that runs it, is a version of this idea that I'm presenting. That is, it's a primitive version of the idea of trying to put something like a humane, natural, explanatory, comprehensible, ever-improving, good description of what it is you're trying to do in the heart of the operation and generation of your program. And that what you're doing is trying to facilitate that working, and that work of improving that description reliably and robustly with a wrapper, a kind of environment that facilitates it properly. So that's what I'm advocating in this 10-minute video, is that we all put a central description and essence in the heart of our programs.